Welcome back to the WCNC Live Impact News Studio. I am Sports Director Nick Carboni. We are not too far from the NBA Draft. Hornets have the 4th overall pick in that first round, Wednesday the 25th. And we are talking about the draft every single week leading up, getting you prepared for what the Hornets might do, should do, could do, would do. And today we have the perfect guest, Terrence Oglesby. He's perfect because he watches I can't even imagine the hours of college basketball and Hornets basketball. He is an analyst for FanDuel Sports, ESPN, Fox, NBA, CBS, and Field of 68. I don't know if you and Jeff Goodman are working on re-trademarking that to Field of 72 or 76, but that's a different conversation.
That is a whole different conversation. I hear there's some scuttlebutt, if you will, that they're working on some different names. But we'll see. We'll see how it all kind of progresses. I wouldn't be opposed to more madness. Of course, that's just me. But I think there's a lot of people saying the other way around.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the finals. Pacers take a 2-1 lead last night. Halliburton just keeps finding it. You can't put this guy down. And the Pacers, it was a cool atmosphere in Indiana. First time in 25 years of the finals. Reggie Miller, going wild for Hallie.
Elite outfit.
Yeah,
for my main man, Reg. No, look. The thing about the Indiana Pacers is everybody kind of assumed because it was the playoffs it was going to slow down, and that just hasn't been the case. And here's the thing about Indiana, too, that I think has not been talked about enough. The way they play doesn't rely on officiating, whether they're at home or they're away. So for them to be able to steal game one was huge. And the fact that Tyrese Halliburton has emerged into this superstar of a player, and then whenever he's not going, they have an individual scorer in Pascal Siakam. They have lockdown defenders that you can throw different types of bodies at SGA. Indiana, man, what a fun team. And Rick Carlisle is a genius. We all know that.
Yeah.
That's been said. But at the same time, to be able to get those guys to come together, the guys coming off the bench playing well, this Indiana team, because they don't rely on officiating and they just keep coming at you in waves, the game is never over. And we've seen that through the entirety of these playoffs.
Yeah, they're built on that, so that can only help them going forward. With OKC, is their inexperience showing in those moments? I mean, they came in as you look at them and that's the deep team. That's the team that has so many options.
Yeah, absolutely right. And here's the thing, too. They're still young. They're still capable. I do think because the depth plays so hard for Indiana. T.J. McConnell came in, I think in the first half had 2 points in one spell, but completely changes the tone of the game. He's done that all season long, and he has found a knack for changing the energy of a contest. And whenever you have guys that come off the bench and do that, whether it's him, whether it's Benedict Mathurin, those guys just provide a different level of spark. They don't come in to fit in. They come in to break things down and change a rhythm. And they've been able to do that all season long, and it's just carried over into the playoffs. And so I think there's one thing to be learned. They have a lot of guys that understand their role, one, and they have a lot of guys that are willing to break the mold, even coming in with that second unit.
All right, let's talk about the Hornets. We hope someday they play in June. May would be great as well. So they got to hit on draft picks, including number 4. So obviously the lottery luck or lack thereof kind of bit again, and fans were down about that. It's time to get over that now. And a top 4 pick is nothing to sneeze at in the NBA draft. Do you think this is a good place to be in the top 4 this draft?
Yes. I think there's 4, maybe 5 guys that I would have taken number 1 last year.
Wow.
And last year, obviously, being a bit of a down year as far as the draft is concerned. Zachary Richichet, who had some good games towards the back half of the NBA season, but at the same time, not the same level that we're accustomed to seeing. The year before, it was Wemby and all these guys. It was a down year last year. The top of this draft, not so much the case. I mean, you look at Cooper Flagg, obviously going to go number 1 to the Mavs. How that happens, I'm not quite sure. Number 2, Dylan Harper, a terrific piece, big guard with size. After that, it gets interesting because I still feel like after those top 2, which in my mind, both of those guys are going to be all-stars, you have some volatility in the 3, 4, 5, 6 picks because you can either get guys that can help you immediately, which I think would be someone in the neighborhood of a VJ Edgecombe, or even more so, if you want to go Kon Knueppel. And then you have some guys that you're looking a little bit more at future prospects. Are they going to be able to score a lot in the future? And Ace Bailey's going to be a really good player if everything clicks and it falls into the right situation. Trey Johnson, kind of in the same mold as, I'm going to say it, and I don't care to say it. He's intentional about getting to his spots. He's best in the mid-range. His jump shot is pure. And he scored almost 20 points a game in spite of playing for Coach Rodney Terry, who didn't set him up with a
Yeah.
lot. So for him to be able to create those looks, that really impressed me. Same measurements as Kobe. And I'm not calling him Kobe, but people keep in mind, drafted by Charlotte, what was it, 12th?
Yeah.
He was
yeah.
drafted way back, as opposed to now you're looking at the 3, 4, 5 pick. Like, I think I am prone to hyperbole, sure. However, Trey Johnson can really score the basketball. But there are going to be bumps in the road with him and Ace, to where if you want somebody who can help you sooner to play alongside LaMelo, play alongside Brandon Miller, maybe VJ or Kon Knueppel is the guy.
Yeah, and comparing this year's class to last year's, it seemed like last year's was the perfect time for the Hornets to do what they did and say, like, let's just take the flyer on the 18-year-old from France. This year, maybe they get somebody that will be more NBA ready a little bit sooner. So Cooper Flagg, no. Dylan Harper, no. I mean, you think he's going to no matter what, whether it's Spurs or somebody
that's pretty
that
much
trades
the consensus
up.
at this point. So those top two, those are the guys, and then after that, that's where it gets interesting. Does Philly move their pick?
Let's talk Ace Bailey. You mentioned if it all clicks,
Sure.
and I think that's I feel like people are kind of. You hear a lot more negative things right now because people are, the shot selection, all of this stuff. Like, do you buy into that? Do you think that there's, would he be a fit on the Hornets?
Look, at worst, he's going to be a really good jump shooter, be able to play the 4 position for you. If he wants to put effort on the defensive end, should be able to do that. Charles Lee has shown the ability to get guys to play defense throughout 82 games, even when playoffs were long and lost. So I do think it could work. His best basketball is 5 years away.
Okay.
That's kind of the biggest difference. But keep in mind, too, this guy, he was listed at 6'10", measured at 6'7.5" at the combine, red flag number 1. But really past that, you're looking at a guy that could lead the league in scoring. I think he's that good. Real Tracy McGrady comparisons and likeness as far as the size is concerned, his ability to create in the mid-range, and really the sound footwork and how he shoots the 3 ball, at worst projects as somebody as like a Rashard Lewis, who played for the Orlando Magic alongside Dwight Howard, was able to space the floor. So you look at guys like that and who have size, who has that defensive versatility, at least in the future, as a guy that could play well beside LaMelo Ball, play well beside Brandon Miller, beside Miles Bridges, and fit kind of a need on this Hornets roster.
So a guy that may play his best basketball 5 years from now, and if his best basketball could be leading the league in scoring, given that the Hornets drafted on distant potential last year, could that still fit kind of this team's trajectory right now to pick somebody that is going to take a handful of years to achieve that potential?
I think there's a lot to be made from what the Charlotte Hornets front office is going to do with this draft.
Yeah.
Because if you go somewhere with, say you take VJ Edgecombe, who, hypothetically speaking, fits alongside LaMelo and Brandon, or Kon Knueppel, who could slide in and play a role right away and has a very professional way of being. That means you're hitching your wagon to the LaMelo Ball train, and we're going to see where this thing takes us. If you go more of a future play, Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, what does that say as far as like, hey, is it going to be right now or is it going to be in 5 years? One thing, the Hornets always catch flack at this time of the year because of basically, and I'm just going to say it, how Jordan kind of ran this thing. It's a new regime. They are looking for different things. They are looking for the long-term play, and you've seen it with their gathering of assets and future draft capital and what they have been intentional about doing. It's a future play. So what do you do in this draft? That's the biggest question for me. I don't have access to the front office like a lot of people might think I do. I'm just an outsider.
That's why we brought you.
in.
Wait, whoa.
I'm just
an outsider
looking
on speed
in.
dial.
I'm just an outsider looking in. I can't wait to see kind of the direction they take during this draft because, like I said, 4, maybe 5 guys that you would have taken number 1 overall last year. The talent's certainly there. Yeah,
it seems like obviously Flagg, Harper are the most well-rounded. Like they're rookies, but 4 rookies, maybe not a lot of holes in their game as prospects. It seems like everybody in that 3 through 6 has like they do this really well. This may be 2 years away.
Sure.
VJ Edgecombe right now seems to be everybody's shiny toy that the Hornets should be in range for. Although we'll see. I mean, he could go at 3. It seems like now. What are your thoughts on him overall as a prospect? And obviously, with his game as it stands right now, certainly fits in with this team.
One of the best direct line athletes that the NBA will have next year. That's how good of an athlete he is. Played with the Bahamian national team. Was forced to play a role with some NBA guys. DeAndre Ayton was on that team. Eric Gordon. There were a couple of others. So understands that, hey, I can slide in and play a role. I don't have to be the guy. And he has all those tools and intangibles to be able to be that guy. He's an elite defender. He does some things on the defensive end of the floor that normal humans have no business even being in the play for. So that quickness and that burst help him get in the passing lanes, help him create some fast break opportunities, turning defense into offense. But then, there's a couple of things that as I watch VJ play, it kind of stuck out. I'm not sure he changes direction as well as he is a straight ahead guy. He could be a dunk contest guy next year. That's the kind of athlete he is. But there were times during Big 12 play this season where if he had to change directions or a guy beat him to a spot, he really tried to put his shoulder down and bully the guy to the rim. You got to be able to change directions at the NBA level because guys don't just budge like that. So a little bit of a cause for concern, not a huge one, but you look at if he's drafted at 4, how he could play immediately and be slotted in immediately. Yeah. You move Brandon to the 3, and then all of a sudden, you look at the defensive potential, given that everybody's healthy, it changes things.
Is it hyperbolic to say that VJ Edgecombe could be the best defender on the Hornets at some point in his rookie season? Or is there too much to learn about team defense, about what Charles Lee wants to do, and maybe somebody else that's on this team? It's been a problem in the past, but it certainly improved last year.
It depends on what you say, as far as being a defender, because there's so many different pieces and aspects of that right now. I think Mark Williams, when healthy and engaged, is a terrific defender, especially around the rim, when engaged.
Yeah.
I'm going up and down the roster right now as far as defense is concerned. As far as an individual defender, yes, I do think he could be that guy. Off the ball, I think he could really be that guy because you see what Lou Dort's been able to do. He's big and broad, so it's a little bit different. But just being able to disrupt one side of the floor, I think his quickness and his burst will definitely put him in that kind of category. And it also, it's going to lead itself to a lot of exciting play. And you think back a few years to how they played whenever they made the play-in, fast, out in the passing lanes, getting up and down the floor. VJ could help do that while also maintaining some sound principles that Charles Lee has coached a little bit more so.
Kon Knueppel, do you think he's in play for the Hornets at 4?
I do. Yeah. I do. And if nothing else, what did he shoot, 44% from 3 last year? 41% from 3. I think his catch and shoots were much higher than that. He's not a great athlete. But then again, it goes back to, are you going to pick for ceiling or are you going to pick for floor? That floor is pretty high. For Kon Knueppel. Not a great athlete, not going to dunk on you, but what he is capable of doing, and I had a couple of Duke games for ESPN last year, is he can spotlight at the point for you. He's a terrific reader of the game when he comes off ball screens. He can find open guys, and he could give you a little bit of a change of pace from what LaMelo is if you need a secondary ball handler to get Brandon to his spots. So I absolutely think he's in play. That is an upside as opposed to a baseline pick. And I think Kon Knueppel is going to play in the NBA for a long time because knockdown shooters right away and a guy who makes good decisions, who's competitive, who's a professional, those guys stick. Yeah.
We'll make sure we put a headline out that says Oglesby says Trey Johnson is the next Kobe Bryant. But
we'll do that.
Let's dive. I promise you we won't do that. Let's dive into him a little bit because I thought what you said about him is very intriguing because you see a range on him in the mock drafts for whatever those are worth from all the way to 4 to 6, 7, 8, maybe back end of the top 10. I think you said, he may have some bumps in the road as a lot of these guys will, but how would he kind of slot in immediately? And, we had this conversation a couple of years ago before they picked Brandon Miller about Scoot Henderson and LaMelo and how would that all work?
By the way, right pick.
Yeah, I think we can all say that now for sure. Trey Johnson and LaMelo, how do you see that dynamic playing out?
At worst, you have another shot creator on the floor. Trey Johnson, to me, 19.9 points per game, shot right at 40%, it was 39.7, something like this. And he's 6'6". The person I saw this I was driving on the way up here, and they're like, he has the exact same measurements as James Bouknight. Completely different. Completely different.
Let's go the Kobe route.
Yeah. Completely different human being.
Yeah.
First and foremost. So I don't think that's a good comparison whatsoever. The reason I said Kobe Bryant is because Kobe was so intentional about the spots he was going to get to on the floor to get the shot that he wanted every single time down. Trey's much like that. As You were able to see, if you go back and watch his film, loves a 15-footer on the right baseline. He made sure he could get to that spot to knock down that shot. As the season went on, understood that guys were going to close out hard on him because he turned into a plus shooter, turned his floater into a weapon towards the back end of the season. And he shot 40% from three, the majority of those off the bounce. And it wasn't like he was set up for like these easy looks.
Right.
You put him beside LaMelo, who's a savant as far as passing the ball, and he's going to be able to score sooner rather than later. Now, you are going to have to live with some of these bumps in the road as far as shot selection is concerned, because guys aren't patient, especially when it comes to things like that. Guys are not patient when it comes to shot selection, bad shots, because you take a bad shot, you're taking a good shot out of my hands if I'm a veteran. I've been here long enough. Like, I don't want to see that, right?
Yep.
So you're going to have to live with some of those things. The flip side of that is he's smart, high-character individual. He's going to be a professional. He's been a professional scorer in college for the last X amount of years. And from all intents and purposes, the people I've talked to, he's a professional in how he goes about his business. So I'm a big believer in Trey Johnson. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. I think he could end up leading the league in scoring. I think he's that good.
Wow.
It's just a matter of time, and if it's a matter of patience. And a lot of that comes down to, as you know, fit. Is he going to get that kind of opportunity? I think he is a gifted player.
I think a lot of people like to put, words or thoughts in LaMelo's mouth and head about, well, he doesn't want to be here, or he doesn't want to play with somebody else that needs the ball. I think anybody who's watched
LaMelo
him
lived in Lithuania. Yeah. He's good with Charlotte. I can promise you. I spent some time in Lithuania too. Beautiful country, but if you're not used to a certain way of living, not great for some people.
All right, Terrence, I'll wrap it up with this. We've watched, look at the NBA Finals, Oklahoma City and Indiana, and how they got there. This is a unique market to try to build what ownership wants to build, and that's their stated goal of premier franchise in the NBA. From the limited sample size we have from Jeff Peterson running the show over there, do you think there's a specific path he sees elsewhere in the NBA that he's trying to follow a little bit? Do you see signs of any other franchise out there?
I think, you alluded to Oklahoma City. I think that was before we started the show.
Yeah. Building assets.
Yeah, building assets, building draft capital, looking 2, 3, 4 years into the future. And you don't just see it from the basketball side of things with Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee. You also see it from the front office and the new owners and these guys building a practice facility right across the street, upgrading the facility in which they play in. This is very much a project pushed out into the future. If I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan, I'm excited about the future, while also understanding like a good NBA franchise, a sustainable NBA franchise, isn't built in 1 or 2 years. It is heading in the right direction. Schnall, Rick Schnall, all these guys have shown the willingness to spend. They've shown the willingness to invest in their players. I thought they made some shrewd moves over the last 2 trade deadlines to kind of put themselves in position to keep moving forward. It's an exciting time. You need to come on the ride with the Charlotte Hornets if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan. Don't give up on them, because I know it's been 20 years of, oh my gosh, can we please get it going? This group understands the long play. And once you get to that spot to where it's running consistently, you're going to be a team that's in the playoffs consistently. It's just a matter of sticking it out these next 2-3 years, because in my opinion, it was set back good amount of time because, hanging on to second-round picks that probably weren't good enough, drafting poorly with James Bouknight, who they didn't do their background research for stuff off the floor. Like, this leadership group that has come in over the last 2 years, you see their emphasis has been on professionalism. They've gotten some adults in the room with Taj Gibson, Seth Curry, Grant Williams, guys that are willing to speak up and call guys out. It's very much a future play. It's very much a culture play. Hang around. I'm telling you, this thing's going to get going. It's just going to take a couple of years.
All right, NBA draft begins June 25th. You can stick with WCNC Plus for coverage that night and all the way leading up. Terrence, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it.